All right, there he is, coming off a career-defining performance. Enter Mark Gonzalez. David, from a defending champ to a pro debut, it's been all excitement for the fighter out of One Hit MMA.
He had an illustrious amateur career, beating some of the top prospects in the country. I'm very excited to see him get in the cage and officially become a professional fighter.
9 amateur fights from 2020 to 2024, 7-2 in that time. The tail end of it, dominant.
No, and this dude is a freak athlete. Let me tell you, I actually went over to his gym once, did a tornado kick, like a Taekwondo-style kick. He sent me a video of him doing the exact same kick at heavyweight. It was so crazy. Yeah, he's a talented athlete.
Mark Gonzalez set to dance with Jacob Mendenhall. I love the storyline of Mendenhall beating Mark's good friend and training partner, Mason Moyes, who is in the corner tonight and now meeting with Mark immediately after.
Yeah, sometimes the MMA world is a small world, and, you know, he had a great fight, Mendenhall did, and it looks like Mark's going to come back and try to rewrite that loss for his friend.
Gonzalez rose to the rank of top amateur heavyweight in the West Coast after his win over Igor Lakicevic. All that is in the past as the pro career kicks off. Mark Gonzalez, 38 years old. He'll be 39 next week. Says he certainly wants to cut his teeth into the professional career.
That was an epic walkout. Anyone coming out to Kendrick Lamar, respect to you. That was sick.
All orchestrated by the great Mark Gonzalez. Waiting for him is Jacob Mendenhall. Well, he graduated from the amateur ranks and now returns to dig his heels as a pro. Here is Jacob Mendenhall. David, it was gas tank for gas tank in his last walk, and he came away with his hand raised.
I was extremely impressed with that performance. I was actually on that card and remembered just how tough he was to watch him fight and have a grueling win like that. Very, very tough fighter.
2 of his last 3 fights have ended in the first frame. Stellar stand-up found him in front for the majority of his amateur career.
Yeah, no, he can throw with the best of them, and I think it was the right decision for him to go pro. You know, he's 3-1, had 4 fights, but he was very confident in his wins and looked really sharp.
Breaking it down a little bit, 3-1, 2 wins by TKO, 1 win by decision. Just a year and a half as an amateur.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. He's already kind of coming in as a pro. It just goes to show that maybe there isn't like a kind of like a path that you're supposed to take. Everyone kind of has a different story in that cage tonight.
Let's pull up the numbers as we head to the land of the heavyweights. 3 of our final 4 fights will be with the biggest and baddest Fierce has to offer. Gonzalez, the older fighter at 38. Mendenhall, the taller of the 2 by 1 inch. An extra 7 pounds on the Utah fighter last night at 262. Pro debut for both, 7-2 the amateur record for Gonzalez, 3-1 as an amateur for Mendenhall.
Here's fans. This fight is sponsored by R&R Barbecue. This fight is a professional heavyweight bout scheduled for 3 5-minute rounds. And when the fight begins, the referee in charge will be Dave Selyusted. Introducing the first fighter, fighting out of the blue corner, making his professional debut. He stands 6 feet tall and weighing in at 262 pounds. Fighting out of One Hit MMA, hailing from Layton, Utah. Fierce fans, make some noise for the former amateur heavyweight champion, Mark the Kung Fu Panda Gonzalez. And introducing his opponent, fighting out of the red corner, also making his professional debut, he stands 6 feet 1 inch tall and weighing in at 255 pounds. Fighting out of Legacy Martial Arts, hailing from Nampa, Idaho. Fierce fans, make some noise for Jacob the Titan Mendenhall.
First pro rep for Jacob Mendenhall in the red gloves. Similar situation for Mark Gonzalez, who dons the blue gloves. This heavyweight bout is brought to you by R&R Barbecue. 9-time Utah's best barbecue team and still the best to ever hit you in the lips. R&R Barbecue, an official sponsor of Fierce FC.
Man, I love R&R Barbecue. Shout out to those guys. So good.
Do a great job. Mendenhall blitzes early.
Coming out hot is Mendenhall.
Pumps out punches so effectively. That one a little bit more rampant.
And Mark's no slouch to heavy hitters and grapplers. But Mark, yeah, he's definitely a force to be reckoned with.
Gonzalez lays over the top of Mendenhall, back against the cage for the Nampa, Idaho fighter.
You know, sometimes it's interesting. Sometimes you get a fighter like Mark who he's on the shorter side of heavyweight, but he is a big boy. He is, super crazy strong, and sometimes the leverage on the cage and kind of being underneath the person, it allows you to kind of keep them there and, be able to push forward.
Mark Gonzalez bidding for a bit of a pedestrian start. He is 4-1 when going to decisions. I know we're only about 1 minute into this one, but just a quick note as to his wrestling pedigree as well as his ability to drag things out.
Yeah, I'm interested to see if either of these guys, being their pro debut, utilize elbows and knees in different ways that they didn't use in their amateur career.
And imagine the power that can be produced by both of these guys. 255, 262 last night. Imagine what they're at right now.
You just saw him throw a knee right there, but it kind of exposed him for the takedown.
Mendenhall over in one-hit MMA real estate right now.
Oh, yeah, he's with all those boys, Cole Faust, Amin Garcia. But the crazy thing, I've trained with Mark before. At heavyweight, he could keep up with me on the speed. Like, he is a very talented athlete. I don't know if it always translates in the cage, but he's looking good tonight.
Two cardiovasculars that are always prioritized in there. Don't always see that at heavyweight. These guys cut from a different cloth.
No, and both of these guys, like I said, I think it was the right choice for them to go pro at this point in their careers. Specifically, Mark with several fights and being upwards of 40. This is kind of the time for him to shoot his shot and make it big.
I've talked to Mark in the past, and despite some of the beautiful KOs that he has had, especially that one that he had versus Lauren Sua late last year, he does call himself a grappler. That is where he started this whole thing.
Oh, yeah. I've never met a heavyweight quite like him. There's a reason they call him the Panda, because he can throw some Kung Fu Panda kicks for sure. He's doing a great job of just utilizing his weight. Obviously, he's in the closed guard, but you can see how he's shifting his hips. Mendenhall's leg is at a 90-degree angle. That's a very uncomfortable spot to be. In jiu-jitsu, this would probably be a frustrating position, right? You're trying to pass the guard, do a knee slice or Toriando pass. But in this context, he has him pinned against the cage, and he's able to use it just like that.
Gonzalez debuted a couple of elbows moments ago, now heads over to the back. The instincts are sharp. With about a minute 40 to go, round one.
Yeah, and Jacob really needs to get off this cage. He doesn't want to be here for very long, because having 265 plus pounds on you, that can be very taxing.
Cage chimes as Mark Gonzalez goes for a foot stomp, now pulling out the table as Mendenhall sits back down.
What's been interesting is Mark is actually starting with the double leg and then switching to a single leg. Generally, like we saw in the last fight with Urgel, he would go from a single leg to the double leg because he had such long arms. But for Mark, there's quite the contrast. He has short arms. He's able to utilize that single leg to the seat dump, almost like a Cain Velasquez or a Daniel Cormier.
Ooh. Beautiful shot lands to the breadbasket for Gonzalez in close quarters. Mendenhall spent the brunt of this round on bottom.
I know most amateurs, they're just chomping at the bit to throw those elbows. And they, like we were mentioning earlier, might not be used to it. And so it's kind of cool to see them starting to utilize that. I see Mark's corner is actually telling them to throw those elbows down, make it a grimy fight.
Here another elbow called out by the corner. Mark Gonzalez So far, so good for him in the pro debut.
No, he's looking sharp, and quite frankly, it's come down to the excellent grappling.
Weighty elbow lands flush on the face for Gonzalez. A beautiful first round to debut as a pro.
So remind me, Blake, is the 12-6 elbows legal now?
It is now legal, yes.
That was so cool. That was so cool to see, because for years, man, true hardcore MMA fans have been dying to get that, to reverse the loss that John Jones had to Mark Hamill from its, the icebreaker elbow. So it was cool to actually see that live in person for once.
And that's not any light pressure when it's coming from the Kung Fu Panda. It comes with a lot of heat. Mendenhall, quite durable.
No, I'm wondering how from 3 minutes to 5 minutes, right? Even though these guys have some championship experience, same amount of time fighting, that's 2 extra breaks in between the fights. Now they're doing 5 minutes, 1 minute break. It does change the dynamics.
Always interested to see how that transition comes to be. Right now, Mark Gonzalez in the lead as we kick it off to the top of round 2, presented by R&R Barbecue. Dave Selystead, couple more assignments for him as the third man in the cage here at Fierce Fighting Championship 39.
Quite the exchange. Mark's eyes are wide open. That punch must have hit him pretty hard.
Mendenhall tried to go for a spinning attack. Gonzalez privy to it.
Yeah, I don't know if the spinning attacks are the move at heavyweight. I don't know. Maybe I'm judging.
Joel Haro shaking his fist somewhere in the world.
What a legend. Shout out to you, Joel.
A little bit of blood dripping from the nose of Mendenhall, listening to his corner well as Gonzalez tries to take this one back down.
Once again, going back to that single drop. Mark, he's really perfected that and shown it in this fight, honestly. He must be hitting this on a lot of people in the gym, too. Now, Mendenhall's doing a good job. He just used that cage pretty professionally to come up. That was very impressive from a heavyweight. Speaking of moves that a heavyweight can do, Mendenhall might be rewriting history for us.
Mendenhall tried to turn that into a transition. Gonzalez fully forward, able to get it right back to a familiar spot.
I would really like to see Mendenhall just get off the cage. He needs to be pushing, framing on the face. Mark kind of has his head down a lot of the times on the cage. Beautiful throw right there, though.
Lifts Mendenhall off of the canvas as he drops him down. Mark Gonzalez right now batting 1,000.
Yeah, he just manhandled him right there. That was almost like his teammate Amin Garcia against Talon back in the day, chucking his opponent. That's kind of what it looked like right there.
That's a great callback.
Yeah. I watch some fights.
Stuck in side control right now is Jacob Mendenhall. Hasn't been able to produce much from here as Mark Gonzalez elbows to the body once again, continuing to bruise that midsection.
Yeah, I think that Mark, he's finding some success with those elbows because his arms are so short, so maybe he's not able to do the full swing on the elbow, but he can do those short, super tight elbows that really sting.
Not much of a submission threat for Mark Gonzalez so far. Only had one in his amateur career. It was back in June of 2024. Right now, more so just making sure to staple the hips down to the canvas as he continues to ground and pound.
Yeah, I think it's so different, and it's based on the weight class and the physique that you have, right? Like, Mark is this big, heavy guy at heavyweight, short and stocky, but huge. And that weight, that's suffocating, and he's able to do a lot of damage from there versus somebody like me at 125 pounds, I'm having to look for submissions and do some other things.
Minute 45 to go, round 2. Gonzalez doing more of what he did in round 1.
It's interesting to see Mendenhall kind of stay in that turtle position. Mark's kind of coming to the front, more like a collegiate wrestler using a cow catcher, underhook. Now he's kind of on top, just using that ground and pound, going back to the elbows. He needs to be careful of the back of the head, though, with those elbows. He needs to be coming in front, and I think Dave's communicating that.
Nice work by Dave Selyestead. Another elbow lands, grazing the back, but the Idaho Falls crowd really getting into this one as Mark Gonzalez continues to roll downhill.
Yeah, I know as a fan sometimes you want to see like the knockouts from the feet, but watching this fight, this has been a very exciting fight and dominant, right? Like Mark isn't just sitting there. He's not just chilling. He's actively utilizing his grappling to do some damage, and people love that.
Mark Gonzalez pulled back his arm quite quickly. I wonder if Mendenhall was holding on to it. I'm not sure.
I don't know. I saw Dave shake his head. I think it might have been from the elbow, though. He needs to be careful of those elbows, or he might get a warning or point taken potentially,
Might be having a little bit too much fun in there.
Yeah. He's doing the right thing, though. And Mendenhall, bless his heart, but he needs to get up and start kind of getting back to his feet where he can potentially have some damage done.
Saw him a few moments ago look over at his corner and shake his head, unsure of what was being communicated.
Yeah, now he's just covering up, unfortunately.
Final seconds here, round 2. We'll close it out with 5 more minutes to go. Mendenhall winces as he heads back to his stool.
Looking a little ginger. Probably, obviously gassed from that, but, maybe some injuries too or some damage done.
Down and hunched over. No stool in there. More so just crouched.
I don't know what's going on. Did he do this the first round?
I don't recall, but I also don't believe so.
Interesting.
Just hearing from our producer, he didn't actually have a stool. I wonder if they even brought it or what that might be. Maybe it was a strategy to try to stay upright. Over in the corner, Mark Gonzalez, he's sitting down and sitting pretty.
Earlier I had mentioned how MMA is such a young sport. People have different beliefs on what to do. You got some people upside down, some people sitting, some people laying back like we saw tonight, so it just depends.
Who's doing it upside down?
Is it Glover? I think it's Glover. No,
in between rounds?
Alexei Olenek, he goes upside down, kicks his legs up onto the cage.
In between rounds?
Yeah, in between rounds.
How have I never seen this?
Yeah, crazy, huh? Gets the blood flow down to the head, right, where it matters.
All right. I'd like to consult a doctor about that, but top of round 3 we go. Gonzalez looked for a kill shot, pulled it back.
There's a reason they call it martial arts, right? There's an artistic component to this art. Interpretation.
Sure. Mendenhall able to land an inside leg kick.
See, this is where Mendenhall needs to be versus here.
Lightning fast entry for Gonzalez. More of the same as he continues to dominate here in the pro debut.
Honestly, I'm very impressed with Gonzalez. I think Gonzalez could probably go with just about anyone in the heavyweight division right now.
And David, I will also mention this again, 38 right now, 39 next week. Doesn't look like it.
No, not at all. In fact, we actually talked about that a few months ago where he told me that he feels younger than ever, more athletic than ever, best shape of his life. That's what MMA can do to you. It can really change your life,
Gonzalez had some stark weight losses over the course of his time in the MMA rule space. Obviously still a heavyweight, but was not a healthy heavyweight when he first stepped through those doors at One Hit MMA.
I'm pretty sure he cuts weight to make heavyweight, right?
A little bit, I believe. Yesterday at 262, so probably something.
Okay. I think in the past he has, but that's been one thing that I know his coaches has kind of worked on. They kind of been like, hey, you need to get serious about this. Yes, you're a heavyweight. Yes, you get to eat whatever you want, but you are now a professional athlete, and things change.
He did used to walk around heavier. I'm not sure about right now, but like you were talking about, maybe just taking it more seriously as a professional.
That was such a beautiful way of manhandling him. Notice how he took his hand, he got a 2-on-1, more like a wrestler would, and just yanked him back, and now he's back on top. Pretty content just staying right here, it looks like. Another elbow. Powerful from Mr. Gonzalez.
Gonzalez holds a 1-1 amateur kickboxing record on top of that 7-2 amateur career from 2020 to 2024.
And it's interesting, he goes from hip to hip, he switches back to the front, and now he goes for the wrist right. And he's kind of done that pattern this entire time. I don't know if he's trying to set up like a certain submission or maybe there's just preferences on the control that he likes. But you can tell he definitely has this like wrestling influence. Grabbing the ankle right there, that's a very much so like top wrestler, Penn State, Iowa style wrestler being on top.
Adding on to it with some knees to the body is Mark Gonzalez, former amateur heavyweight champion. Apologize, David. Go ahead.
No, yeah, and you can see Mark's chest straight on his back. He has all of his weight on top of him. For the most part, Mark's actually been on his toes a lot of the time. I mean, that's like 260-plus pounds right on top of you, which is not fun for Mendenhall.
Mendenhall trying to get his way back up. Mark Gonzalez still controlling.
Yeah, this is a tough one for Mendenhall thus far. There's still 1:30 left, and he has a puncher's chance, but this is a tricky one to come back from.
Stiff shot hit moments ago for Gonzalez. Mendenhall immediately closed the distance again.
He's going back to that single leg. Notice how he's grabbing by the Achilles. He's going to straighten the leg out and bring him down.
If we had live stats, I would be so curious of the control time as well as the amount of takedowns and the accuracy of them, because Mark Gonzalez has been doing anything he wants in there.
Well, what's crazy to me is like the last time I think Mark Gonzalez fought here or somewhere close to here, I don't know, he got like a super quick knockout. And it was like beautiful striking
at the Maverick Center versus Lawrence Sua to win the amateur the amateur heavyweight championship.
It was at the Maverick Center. Like, that was so crazy. It was so quick. We were commentating that, and it was so fast. And so I knew him kind of as a striker. But watching tonight, he looks like a D1 wrestler on the mats.
It was August of last year. His first Fierce Walk was then. He's been so good with that win over Igor Lakicevic, and what we're seeing now in the final 15 seconds of round number 3 seems to be cruising to a 1-0 record as a pro.
Yeah, there's some desperation from Mendenhall right now trying to kick off of that cage, but it might not matter in a few seconds.
Heavy lean for Mark Gonzalez, as it looks like he's going to move to 1-0 as a pro. Dominant as an amateur, dominant as a pro.
Honestly, some of those rounds might have been 10-8s. That was a very dominant performance. And I think every single heavyweight, whether they're here in their arena tonight or somewhere else, they should be worried right now.
So curious of how much longer Mark wants to do this. Obviously, we talked about his age a couple of times, but certainly wants to make his way into the Fierce rankings. Right, lots of big names.
Congrats.
Gonzalez comes over, talks a little bit about his wrestling. He showed it, and then some. Jacob Mendenhall certainly frustrated by the pro debut performance.
And I quote, "Fat boy can wrestle."
I couldn't hear it. I'm glad you were able to piece it together.
The fat boy can wrestle. That was a great quote from Mark Gonzalez.
We'll see what else he has to say in the post-fight interview. That is now 3 consecutive wins at Fierce Fighting Championship for Mark Gonzalez. He has been unbelievable since he's made the step over here to Fierce Fighting Championship, and now seems to be in greener pastures right now, David. Unbelievable.
Honestly, sometimes all it takes is somebody to believe in you, or for you to believe in yourself, to help you realize what you can truly be in this sport. I know for me, I kind of had a similar experience, and so I'm grateful to see Mark go through that.
All right, looks as though we've got scorecards in hand. We'll wrangle the fighters and make it official with our man, Jackson Hopes.
Fierce fans, After 3 rounds, we go to the judges' scorecards for a decision. The judges score this contest 30-27, 30-27, and 30-26, declaring the winner by unanimous decision, Mark the Kung Fu Panda Gonzalez.
Mark Gonzalez, incredible at the close of the amateur career, and you match it here in the pro debut. How you feeling, my man?
Yeah, I'm tired of shit.
How tough was Jacob Mendenhall, and how hard was it to keep him matted for so much of the fight?
100% respect for Jacob. You know, he fought my teammate back in September and won. And this was kind of my vengeance for my buddy. You know, it's my teammate, my brother, and I love him to death, and I respect the hell out of Jacob. So strong, holy cow. Man, he's tough, but it's the reason why I'm a former champ.
Was wrestling the game plan throughout the entirety of this camp?
Hell no, I'm too fat for that. The plan was to use my hands, but when I saw him standing up, straight up, coming in, I'm like, the legs are there, we gotta take it. And yes, fat people can wrestle. It's sloppy, but we still can wrestle.
Unbelievable as a pro, ladies and gentlemen. 1-0 for Mark Gonzalez.